Whether you're a seasoned investor or a curious homebuyer, this video will provide valuable insights into complexities of real estate agreements. Learn how contingencies can shape a deal and why pre-occupancy can be a game changer for buyers and sellers alike. Don't miss out on this incredible story that highlights the excitement and unpredictability of the real estate market. Hit the like button, subscribe for more real estate content. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Join me as I dive into one of the craziest real estate deals ever and see if I can navigate the tricky waters of contingent sell with pre-occupancy. In this video, I'll go through my experience with this complex transaction, explain what each one of these contract scenarios mean in a comprehensive manner, the contingent upon sell and pre-occupancy. Then I will give you a real-world experience on the scenario on how this complex sell happens. I will explain to you how issues can arise and will arise and show you the steps and what we went through to get this deal closed for all parties as smoothly as possible. At the end of this video, you will have a full comprehensive understanding of both the contingent upon sales and pre-occupancy and how we successfully manage closing a deal doing both at the same time. I'm proud to say I just achieved one of the most complex deals one will ever do in real estate. And many will not attempt because they do not have the knowledge, skill set, or professional vigor to attempt it, which is the contingent upon sell with pre-occupancy. Now, I've done many of these types of deals independently, either being just a contingent upon sell or pre-occupancy. But I've done only 2 deals being both at the same time. And the first one was a nightmare due to it being my first real estate transaction on the sell sides as a rookie. I will not speak on it because it's taboo to talk about negative aspects of real estate, but maybe I should. What do you guys think? Want to hear my horror stories of real estate? Let me know in the comments below, and if I get enough of them, I will start the dark side of real estate playlist on my channel. I would say 90% of professionals in my industry have never done one of these deals, just because there's a lot of moving parts in each one of these scenarios, let alone both of them. And if I didn't have to, I wouldn't do it either. I do not recommend them. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people involved in the transaction. And if those people do not communicate, be proactive, and work together on solving issues that will arise, the whole deal could fall through, go sideways, and even as far as having lawsuits be filed. And I promise with either one of these contract scenarios, an issue will always pop up. Now, in real estate, the term contingent upon sell refers to a specific condition in the purchase agreement, where the buyer's offer is dependent on the sale of their current property. This means that the buyer must sell their existing home before they can move forward with the purchase of the new property. It's a way to protect the buyer from being obligated to buy if the current home does not sell, allowing them to avoid losing their earnest money or facing legal issues. However, sellers often include a kick-out clause, which allows them to keep marketing the property and accept other offers if the seller receives a better offer. The original buyer typically has limited time, like 48 to 72 hours, to either remove the contingency and proceed or back out and let the new offer take precedence. This contingency is common for buyers relying on the equity of their home to finance their new purchase, making the buying and selling process a bit more complex. If you're considering using or accepting a contingent upon sell offer, it's essential to understand how it works and how it can impact your transaction. Now, one way to bypass this kick-out clause is to have the buyer's home in escrow already. If your home is in contract already, it is a lot more likely that the seller of your new home will accept the offer. If your buyer's agent is really good and does their due diligence to make the offer rock solid as they can, he or she will provide what I like to call a chain of contract. This is the listings agent information of the current home they're selling, along with coinciding documents such as the listing agreement, residential purchase agreement, seller's real property disclosure, the buyer's, if they're contingent upon sell approval, and proof of funds. The chain of contract is the listing agent's information, along with coinciding documents such as a listing agreement, residential purchase agreement, seller's real property disclosure, the buyer's information, such as their pre-approval and proof of funds if the home is in contract, along with the inspection report, request for repairs, appraisal, preliminary report from title and escrow, and any and all addendums as well. So there's a lot of moving parts that go into this. So if you're doing a contingent upon sale, and if your home is in contract already, it is a lot more likely that the seller of your new home will accept the offer. But then again, it's not for sure. Your buyer's agent will also need to reach out to the buyer of their contingent upon sale home and get the loan officer's information to talk directly with all parties, and get the forestated documents if the listing agent for your buyer's home cannot provide it. They will also need to get the title and escrow information, or if you're on the East Coast, a lawyer's contact information to talk to them to ensure all the documents you received are legit. Because believe me, once you start trusting in others' words and not doing your due diligence for your clients is when things go sideways. So that's what I mean by a lot of moving parts and people involved. It's almost like, it is actually like doing two transactions. So let's review the people involved when you're doing a contingent upon sale and you're doing your due diligence and making a sound offer, knowing that the deal is not going to fall through, and if it does, it's out of your control. You have the listing agent, the buyer's agent of the person buying the contingent upon sale, the people buying their home, loan officer, if they have one, the escrow and title company, or the lawyers. That makes it for a lot of people that can make things go sideways in the contingent upon sale. And as anyone knows, the less people involved in a process, the less likely there will be mistakes that happen. Now let's review what we need in documentation for the contingent upon sales when their home is in contract. The listing agreement, the purchase contract, seller's real property disclosure, purchasers' financial credibility and their pre-approval or proof of funds, inspection report, request for repairs, appraisal, addendums, and preliminary report. The chain of contract is vital in reviewing and understanding how sound and contingent upon sale is, because a lot of deals fall through. Now, sometimes a contingent upon sale home will just be starting out in contract, which will not have this full chain of contract that you can supply. This makes the offer for your new home you're buying not as strong. If your offer does get accepted during the early stages of your contingent upon sale going into contract, your real estate professional helping you through this complex transaction will need to stay in communication throughout the sale of your home to ensure nothing falls through, which is a tedious task because you cannot rely just on the listing agent's information given. You have to follow up with the buyer's agent, the escrow company, the loan officers. Now you know you have a better perspective of the complexity of what goes into seeing through the contingent upon sale terms within a residential purchase agreement. Now, when dealing with a contingent upon sale offer, several things can potentially go wrong, making the process challenging for both the buyer and the seller. One of the biggest risks is the buyer's current home may not sell within the agreed upon time frame, causing the entire deal to fall through. Changing market conditions or an overpriced property can further delay the sale, putting additional pressure on the buyer. If the seller receives a better offer, the original buyer might be forced to remove the contingency quickly or back out, especially if the buyer relies on the equity from their current home to finance the new purchase. Legal risk also comes into play if the buyer can't fulfill the terms of the contract, potentially leading to the loss of their earnest money or even legal action from the seller. Now, for the seller, this situation can cause inconvenience and financial loss, particularly if they've already made plans based on the expected sale. The uncertainty of the contingency can create significant emotional stress for both parties, disrupting the transaction and potentially leading to conflicts. These risks highlight the importance of understanding the complexities of a contingent upon sale offer and how it can impact the entire transaction. Now let's talk about pre-occupancy. So you see there's a lot of moving parts in the contingent upon sale already. In real estate, the pre-occupancy refers to a scenario where the buyer is allowed to move into the property before officially closing of the sale. This arrangement can be particularly useful if the buyer needs to move in quickly due to circumstances like the sale of their current home, job relocation, or other personal reasons. Typically, a pre-occupancy agreement is put in place outlining the terms such as potential rent payments, utility responsibilities, and other conditions during the period before closing. However, it's important to understand that there are risks involved. There are several potential pitfalls that could complicate the transaction for both the buyer and the seller. One of the biggest risks is the sale might not close as planned, leaving the buyer who has already moved in a difficult position where they may need to vacate the property. There's also the risk of the property damaged in the pre-occupancy period, which can lead to disputes over who is responsible for repairs. Legal and financial liabilities could arise if the buyer caused damage or if there are accidents on the property, especially if insurance coverage isn't clear or adequate. Disputes can also occur over rent payments and utility responsibilities, potentially straining the relationship between the parties involved. For the seller, the inconvenience of having the buyer in the property before closing could impact their ability to market the home if the sale falls through. Additionally, the buyer might face financial strain from covering costs like rent and utilities during this period, especially if the deal doesn't close. Misunderstandings or ambiguities in the pre-occupancy agreement can lead to further complications, making it crucial for both parties to clearly define and agree on all terms. While pre-occupancy can be convenient, it comes with a risk that needs careful consideration to ensure a smooth and successful transaction. If you haven't had the pleasure of meeting me yet, I'm Shane Judd, your go-to real estate expert right here in the vibrant Las Vegas area. I absolutely love helping people like you relocate, buy, sell, and invest in the exciting market of Las Vegas and Henderson and the surrounding areas. Thinking about making a move to the greater Las Vegas area? Or maybe you're curious about the amazing opportunities our city has to offer. You'll find all my contact information down in the description below. I'm here to make your real estate journey smooth, successful, and even a little fun. Now, before we dive any further, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you stay up to date with all my latest content. Now that you've seen the complexities involved with these unique transaction scenarios, I have to stress, if you can avoid them, it's usually best to do so. There are just too many variables that can go wrong, many of which are beyond our control as real estate professionals or even as the buyer or seller. Most agents will steer clear from these situations due to the risk involved, and I usually try to. But then again, as for me, I do love a challenge. However, even I will avoid these scenarios whenever possible, especially when both situations, contingent upon sale and pre-occupancy, are involved in the same transaction. That said, sometimes a client comes to me with specific real estate goals and unique circumstances that call for creative problem solving. I had a client from Washington State who reached out to me and stated that they're selling their home and had a strong desire to move to Pahrump, Nevada, to be closer to family and take advantage of the affordability. So we had a Zoom consultation to discuss their needs, purchase power, timeline, and more. The key challenge for them was that they needed to sell their current home, use the equity for their new purchase, and navigate a job transfer with an uncertain start date. So we devised a game plan where I sent them potential homes, and they ended up selecting a few. Once her job offer was confirmed, that's when we hit the go button. I did personal video walkthrough of these homes to give them a real feel of the properties and gave them personal feedback as a professional. So they chose one and were ready to make an offer, but we needed to carefully structure it to account for their unique situation, because as aforementioned, all the things that could go wrong. So I reached out to their listing agent in Washington to gather market data and ensure we had accurate information on how long it would take to sell their home, because it wasn't in the contract yet. On the new home front, I did a deep dive into the market trends and had a thorough discussion with the listing agent about the seller's motivations. This allowed us to craft a strong offer with contingencies that made sense for all parties. So after some negotiation, we got our offer accepted. Luckily, we got it $5,000 under list price, even with a contingent to sell, which is great. And this was fantastic because the appraisal came back and gave my clients $20,000 in instant equity before they even moved in. We agreed on a closing timeline with some cushion in it. Just in case the market didn't perform as expected, We also formalized the pre-occupancy terms, which included a lease agreement, but importantly, no rent during the pre-occupancy period due to my client's tight budget. I was fortunate enough that the listing agent was willing to work with me, but the home was on the market for over 200 days, so kind of worked out. And in order to protect the seller, we added additional earnest money deposits, with the original deposit being released upon the move-in date, and the additional deposit acting as a security measure for the seller's peace of mind. Before moving into the home in Pahrump, my clients got their home in Washington under contract, aligning with the market trends that we predicted through analysis. Although there were a few delays, we successfully closed 3 days after the original closing date, with only a prorated amount due for the pre-occupancy period. So all they had to do was pay that prorated fee for those 3 days, which was great for my clients. All parties were happy with the outcome and it was successful, but there could have been a lot of things that went wrong with this. But due to my due diligence and preparation, this ensured everything stayed on track. I'm proud of how this transaction turned out. I'm even happier that it's over, because it was pretty tedious. But it's important to remember that these situations are highly complex and not for everyone. While I don't recommend contingent upon sale and pre-occupancy in most deals, sometimes unique situations require unique solutions. If you find yourself in a similar situation and need advice, I'm just a phone call away. So that's a wrap for one of the most complex transactions you can do in residential real estate. I hope you found value in this video. And as always, thanks for watching. Stay curious and keep exploring. And I hope to see you on the next one.